Good afternoon. It's Friday. We have an echo on our channel. Someone might be watching and recording at the same time. That always happens to me. It is Friday, June 19th, 2015 at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is Higher Ed Special Edition. I'm your host, Ashley Budd. On today's show, we're discussing one of our most valuable and challenging web assets in higher education, the directory. The challenge comes in even taking the most basic biodemographic person information and displaying it in an intuitive search. We'll tackle this challenge and more with Dan Chase and Vineet Vargas. And I want you to stay tuned to learn how schools are improving the higher education directory to deliver a rich web experience for visitors. But first, a shout out to the kind sponsors that make Higher Ed Live possible. Higher Ed Special Edition is part of the Higher Ed Live network, offering viewers direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. And today we're bringing you Vineet from Omni Update, the leading CMS solution for higher education, as well as Dan coming from University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, where he is counting down the days to his retirement from his post there, and so we had to get him on the show before he leaves us. The webcasts here at Higher Ed Live allow viewers to share knowledge and participate in discussion around the most important issues in the industry, and as I mentioned today, we're talking about this thing called the Higher Education Directory that can take so many forms. All episodes of Higher Ed Special Edition are free and accessible in video and podcast format in our archives at higheredlive.com and on iTunes or wherever your podcast format of choice is. Higher Ed Live is produced by our friends at M. Stoner, a marketing and communications firm that works with education institutions on branding, strategy, web design, and much more. M. Stoner is offering free 30-minute print consultations this summer. If you're interested in having your suite of admission or advancement materials reviewed, we just tweeted out a link where you can learn more and sign up for that. This episode of Higher Ed Special Edition is sponsored by Omni Update. Omni Update's content management and digital marketing solutions can help you effectively manage your website and drive social media traffic to it. Showcasing key assets such as faculty, scholarship, departments, and buildings on your website can help you differentiate yourself from your competitors. Omni Update's directory solutions give you your directory contributors editorial freedom while you maintain those high standards of design control that can strengthen your brand at your institution. You can learn more about this at omniupdate.com, but we'll be diving into these topics in just a moment. So right now I'd like to welcome our two great guests to the show. First up, we've got Dan Chase, who manages web system architecture and the OU campus CMS solution over at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. Hi, Dan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ashley. Glad I could be here. Wasn't expecting to be called out for the retirement, though.
Yeah, we've got a birthday cake out back here, candles, little surprise party.
Yeah, digital slicing, right?
Yes, digital slicing. Yes. Yes. Well, congratulations on your time spent. I'm glad that you'll be joining me here in the beautiful foothills of the Adirondacks soon.
Yes. Going home.
Going home. It's a beautiful thing. And then we have Vineet with us today, who's managing implementation at Omni Update. Vineet, welcome.
Hi. I'm so happy to be here with you. And I'm really excited to be with Dan, who is one of our #1 customers of all time. So this is an exciting opportunity.
All-star cast and crew here today. Well, Vineet, we're happy to have your expertise, and I know that at the heart of any good directory on a website is a really solid CMS implementation, and we're happy to have a leader like Omni Update with us today to talk about this challenge. So for those of you who are watching along, don't hesitate to ask any questions of our guests today. We'll be monitoring those questions on Twitter, so send them our way using the HigherEdLive hashtag. I'll do my best to ask those questions as they come in. But for now, I want to get started with a few questions of my own. And I want to start with Vineet and kind of set the baseline for our discussion today. We're going to see a really great implementation. Dan has some examples to show, but can you help me try to understand the baseline of where higher education is, what problems these institutions are trying to solve when they come to you for a directory solution?
Well, usually when institute comes to us for a directory solution, they are looking for a solution that helps with consistency of information as well as reuse of the information at the same time. So one of the examples is, let's say I'm a faculty at an institute and I have a title called professor in chemistry. That information or the job title has to be consistent across everywhere, wherever you display that information on the website. For reuse, let's say I go to my profile and update my image. That has to be updated across the board. So they are looking for a solution where information is consistent, at the same time they are able to reuse it. Another problem that they run into is maintaining the design control. One of the classic examples of all time is, and it still exists in a lot of different institutes, that every department or school has their own kind of faculty staff directory. What happens is they use different style format, different types of templates, different fonts. Sometimes you find cat pictures on profiles. Sometimes you find useful information. Sometimes just the name and email address. So they want a solution where they can give control in terms of content to the end users, at the same time maintain the design control as well. And the third problem that they usually have is that there is a lot of information in their third-party ERP systems like PeopleSoft, Banner. They have all that useful information, and they want a way to display that on their website. So we at OmniUpdate, with our faculty SAP solution, implement a custom solution for each of our customer and try to solve each of these problems.
Great. Yeah, I think the design or brand control is probably a starting point for a lot of our institutions. And what happens, I think, is that we have to start with such a basic baseline for what we can do across a whole institution, which usually isn't much when it comes to the different variables that you're serving up in that directory search. So it's name, title sometimes. I think on our directory at Cornell University, we're able to keep up with everyone's HR title, but that's not exactly what they go by. I think I'm a advancement engagement 4 or something like that is my title, but digital strategist is really what my working title is. So you end up with this really strange kind of baseline of information. It's kind of the lowest bar that everyone can get in on, and then without handing over some of that editorial control to each department to give the directory a life of its own, you end up with something that's not exactly what your users are looking for, right? So these are the kinds of things that I want to chat about some more. And this is my hunch of why we struggle with this basic information, is because we're dealing with beasts of enterprises like PeopleSoft. So, Vineet, is my hunch right? Why are we still struggling to even get this basic information together in 2015?
Well, there could be different reasons for that. One reason could be there could be some policies at the institute that only limited information could be displayed on the website. So it is that's it. None of the members in the web development team can do anything about it. One more reason could be all that useful information is in systems like PeopleSoft, but they don't understand the way that you can pull all that information to a website. You can simply export a simple XML file out of it and use a key like an email address for a profile and display the name, the title, the most latest department, and all that information directly on the website. So I would say part of it is, it could be policies, part of it could be maybe they haven't explored the technology yet.
Yeah, policy is a great point. And it's very true in higher education that our policy usually lags behind our technologies. And I see Dan shaking his head there. So Dan, what's the difference? What's the difference at your institution? How'd you break that wall? And I know you've got some examples to show us of how you're able to display more than just the baseline.
Yeah, one of the interesting things is I've been around when we went from a paper directory and went through the conversions and believe it or not, I did that many years ago. But one of our key problems is that the authoritative information is segregated or separated rather across multiple systems. It's like the faculty HR information is maintained by the provost's office, whereas the primary personnel information is in HR, and that's maintained by the system. We don't even have access to it directly locally. So we've got to pull it all together. Our student information system doesn't even have all of that because we don't use it for HR functions. So we have those kinds of issues. So we went a whole different way. Instead of integrating our system with some of these ERP level systems, we did it by having each individual person or web editor actually maintain individual profiles. And actually this was to a benefit to us, because one of the key things is we have a lot of faculty members that serve different roles in different departments. If you automate something, it tends to want to put one person in one place. But with the architecture that we have, we can actually put them in multiple places, and each one can be customized so it's exactly appropriate to that particular department. Not too many do a lot of customization, but a lot of times they'll have multiple offices, one when they're doing this role and one when they're doing that role. So you got to be able to find them no matter where they are, and then they just link them together. So it's like, oh, I also have an office over here. But to just give you an example, I'll show off what my personal profile looks like, because it's the most complete one I know.
Great.
This gives you an idea. I mean, the key idea that we wanted to go there was a photograph. It can be anything nice, but normally we're looking for a headshot. We have a professional photographer on staff, at least for a short while longer. Someone else that's moving on. But we have name, title, department that we work for, and usually our terminal degree. But primarily the contact information, email, phone numbers, fax numbers, believe it or not, we still have a few of those around, and office location, hours, and our, of course, social media links and description. It's like they can put anything they want on this. This is normally, the top portion is maintained inside OU Campus using their multi-edit feature. So those are all separate fields. We can pull out and maintain those very, very cleanly and repurpose them. Whereas the bottom is just plain text. If someone wants to give any kind of commentary, it doesn't have to be a bio. It can be any kind of information that they would like. So that's one methodology that we have here. Going from there, that's the individual personal page. Looking at what our IT staff, a directory, looks like, this is the actual list of all the people in IT. The top is just a normal editable area, but this bottom part is generated from all of the content from various individual profiles. We didn't have to edit this page by itself. It's just built by rebuilding the index, and it works very nicely for us. And this is we are a relatively simple department. We're a fairly small IT. But if you go to somebody like our College of Business, they have multiple units. And as you can see, this is just looking at one of their units, but we also have a master directory for the College of Business, where as you see all these individual links, that jumps down through their whole entire college. So you can build this. And this uses the OU Campus snippet ability. So we have lots of variety as far as the possibility of the way we do different kinds of things with the profiles.
So really nice display there. And for those of you listening on the podcast, I'd encourage you to go over to higheredlive.com and check out this in the video format. So a question from the user experience, and I am doing a search on your website. How does this function work? As you're searching on the website, how does it, what's the difference between your website search and your directory search? Because in some places, these are two very different things. And in some places, they're integrated. So I'm curious.
Ours is kind of integrated. Depends on how you look at it. If you do a website search for art, for example, you would type in a name, and by default, it defaults to web search. But when you look at the search field, I actually have an example here. Let me switch over to that, and you can see it. If I can find it again, there it is. This is an example where I searched for information technology. So it's like I wanted to know the information technology staff. And you see we've got a little drop down here for people versus website. If you search website, you get the general web information. But when we choose people, we actually get those same snippets that we use in the generated index for the profiles. And it's really interesting because one of the first searches I always do is usually search for my last name, and I discover, hey, there's somebody else named that here. Now they're gone, I'm afraid, so I'm the only Chase. But it's that same concept. I mean, if we search for Smith, we'll probably find more. But it's really nice as far as having the metadata in the pages. See, we've got a lot of Smiths here. Here's an example of someone that has multiple offices. So therefore, they have multiple profiles. Just a nice example that happened to show up there. But one of the big things that we do here is, in order to enable that search, is we take that data that we've put in the multi-edit fields inside of the OU Campus profiles and repurpose that. If we looked at the source page of that page, it would have special tags that are designed for Google Search Appliance that we can actually target with our search. And that's what we're doing when we do the search. We have a custom index in the Google Search Appliance that's designed to search only profiles. So I know I'm not going to get any random content. It's only going to pull up profiles. And using those keywords in there, we can search for anything. Going back to the other session on directories, that SUNY CoEd presentation that was on a week or two ago, they did a good example of specialty type searches. You want to find somebody that has a specialty in something. We can do the same thing here just by having the keywords in the profile.
So, we're talking a lot about the specific CMS that you're using, and I want to give Vineet an opportunity to react to some of the things that you've been pointing out there. So, can both of you help me, just talk about the experience working with the CMS, how it maps to the directory? How does this thing get put together? We've been, we've been talking about it kind of tangentially and showing folks, and I don't expect you to show us all of the secrets behind the scenes, but just tell me a little bit about the experience, how you're wrangling data. If Vineet, you're right in, this is right in your wheelhouse with implementation, so maybe you can help us walk through what this would look like for an institution who knows that they want to up their game when it comes to directory search.
Overall, we have three types of directory that we build for customers. So I'll start with one that Dan just showed you that was completely managed in OU Campus. So the CMS has functionalities like multi-edit, which is a form-like interface where end users are allowed to enter the data, but we can style the data in whichever way we want. So all that contact information, the social media links that you saw on Dan's profile, all that was managed in multi-edit. So that gives you the, you will be able to maintain the way the template looks without giving the end users an opportunity to, mess things up. So that's one example. Another example is when the information is completely managed in the ERP system. So let's say you have full access to PeopleSoft or Banner. The profiles can pretty much pull everything directly from that ERP system. Taken into condition apply that it has an API or a web service that we can directly tap into. And the CMS OU Campus allows those functionalities for you. And there is a third hybrid model for that combines these two features. So that is one of the most common one that we have been implementing here at OmniUpdate, where part of the information is maintained in OU Campus, like the bio information, which is it's a simple editable region that the faculty or staff can log in and add their content. But the remaining information, like the email address, the phone number, the office address, things that they don't really change, and it is maintained in ERP systems, those get pulled directly from those systems. So it's, again, a hybrid system of both the ones that we discussed. So, so back to your original question about how different schools can bring up their game in terms of directories. Honestly, I can tell you, if your directories are just showing your name and email address, you definitely have to update that, because the people who are visiting your site expect more. And the reason is there are so many new ideas that all these different institutes are bringing up these days. One of the examples I can give you is Hope College. So we recently worked with them. They will go live in about a month from now. And it's not just a faculty staff directory. They have directory or profile pages for buildings. So every building has a profile page that describes when the building was built, and some information about the phone number, the hours that building is open. So that gives you a good database of all the buildings in the campus. Then they have a directory for offices. So all the offices that are in a building could be listed together. And then you have the staff that work in those offices. So again, it is not just faculty staff directory, it is a whole entire campus directory. The second version, or a hybrid model that newer institutes who are doing their implementation right now are doing is integrating their course catalog with directories. One of the examples is that if I'm looking at a course, I can see which faculty members are teaching it. Or if I'm looking at a program page, I can see associated faculty members. Same with if I'm on the catalog and I'm looking at the program, I can see which faculty members are teaching different courses on that program. So that is taking it to a really next level. And the third variation, just like that Dan just mentioned, and you had a webcast about it, was the experts, which is, you try to highlight expertise of different faculty or staff members, and you have the ability to search or sort them based on those kind of tags that are available on the directory. So these are just the ideas that different schools are doing. So again, if you are only showing name and email address, you need to bring your game up.
Well, I think the hybrid model is really one of these game changers, because if you're able to put some of the power in the control of the user, you can get out of just churning out with those enterprise solutions, can handle all you get outside of some of the policy stuff of what you're going to put in the enterprise system so that it functions the way you want it to on the web. So Dan, I want to ask you, how do you introduce these profiles? Who's controlling? Is it really everyone on your campus that has a login can change their own profile, or is there some kind of training? How intuitive is it for me as a staff member to go in and edit something on my profile page?
Well, generally the profiles in our editing process is done at a departmental level. Each individual person on campus doesn't have the access to our OU campus CMS. So they're generally the person for the, say it's faculty members, for example, they would provide the information to whoever the web editor was for their particular unit. So we don't have everybody have access to their own personal profile, but we give them the ability to specify what they want. And of course, negotiation probably inside their own unit, but other than that, they do supply the content, particularly the photographs and that sort of thing. I want to point out one thing that that while we're talking a lot about how we implemented it with OU Campus, technically what we were actually achieving here as far as a concept of directories can be implemented more generically, and I want people to take away concepts here, you know, as far as directories, the type of content, and the idea of integrating with your ERP system. So just because you're not using Omni Updates OU Campus, don't think that you can't do this with whatever you're working with.
Thanks for that point. I think it's an important one. The question I was going to ask is, do you have a certain baseline requirement? So are these, department level folks saying, and I 100% agree, not every faculty member should have access to a CMS, nor do they want to have anything to do with it. There might be like 15% of our faculty that actually want to put their hands on this kind of stuff. So I'm curious, do those web editors in the departments have, do they set certain standards for their department? We saw the full build out of what your profile was and what you can do with it. Are they requiring resumes? Is anyone requiring, LinkedIn URLs, or is there a baseline set at some part of the institution, maybe at a Brandon Comms or something like that?
We don't have any formal requirement, but we encourage it. And I think since we implemented the search, because we did that probably in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 months ago, once you put search out there and people are starting to see, hey, people are seeing my profile, then they say, I want a profile. So if they didn't have one before, first thing is they want to get one, and they want to have a good photo on it so that they know, because they know they're being seen. A lot of our profiles before, I could search for somebody and they had our generic stand-in placeholder in it, and it's like, I haven't seen one of those in a while. So they've made a pretty good point about getting good photos and putting them out there because we gave them the resources. It's like that's all we can do from our perspective, since we're not a central web editing university. It's all distributed to our various departments. The responsibility is out there and the control is out there. We can provide them the resources, show them how to do it, and encourage them, and then just let her go and see what happens. And the examples that I was showing there from the College of Business, that's probably a little bit unfair. Our College of Business has their own web staff. There are probably our big college with somebody in a central position pushing it a little harder than most of our other units.
Isn't that always the way with business schools?
I only deal with one, so I don't know for sure.
Yeah, well, it is. I think for better or worse, they're always pushing us to a certain standard. So I'm not surprised to hear that. So Dan, I know you've done some of your own kind of customizations with search with this tool. Can you talk about what your intentions were? What goal you were trying to achieve and what you were able to do, and then Vineet, if there's any other schools kind of taking your baseline product and doing some fun things with them.
Well, the search that we did because I had this concept from long ago. Back in the days of our print directory, when we made a transition, I actually put that into a database and had it functioning there. So I had the data available to me. And then I integrated that with our old web search before we were using OU Campus. And so I've always had the people information accessible in one way or another. They eventually got that into an LDAP directory, and I could directly access the data in LDAP. So whatever our on-site search, we've had people search integrated since 2000 probably, when I first wrote it. So it's always been there. Now we're just enhancing the capabilities of it. I mentioned the interconnection and the customization that I did to work with our Google search appliance, but I've also added metadata in the back using the same data technically, but in a different format for the big Google, for the, the google.com in a JSON format so that they could do rich snippets if they chose to. And that's what I'm hoping. I don't know if it's done yet. I should go search for my name and see if it shows up. But the data is in a format that allows them to do their rich snippet display. So someday maybe our profile will start showing up on Google.com.
Beauty. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, it would.
And, you know, and I'm thinking back to my admissions days, knowing that our prospective students, that's the way they navigate. They probably even go off of our websites to go back to Google, just for a cleaner experience. But to see an institution where their faculty are showing up in one of those rich snippets, talk about some kind of brand clout that you would get.
There you go.
As you know, as superficial as it might be in a Google search, you know, that's when you start talking about competitiveness. And I also think about, you know, when I think about faculty search and how important it is, Vinny, you mentioned the profiles that can live in course catalogs. When I think about how important faculty are to a student who is looking at a graduate program, graduate school is driven, you know, the choice of where you decide to attend graduate school is 90% who the faculty person is that you're going to be working with. So, you know, you're finding that, you know, you're finding that program, but then the next thing you want to know is, you know, who am I going to be in the lab with or doing research with throughout this time. And if you're, you know, first of all, if you're landing on a program page in the catalog and there's no information about faculty, well, that hurts. But then if you do find the faculty member somewhere in the website and you only get kind of this basic contact information, that, you know, that doesn't give you a whole lot to work with too. So when you're talking about, you know, how a directory can actually impact enrollments, can impact your competitiveness, these are real tactics, and you know, real reason for investment here. So sorry for that side tangent, but it was all coming together for me. Vinny, do you see other schools? I don't want to use the word hack, but I like to. You know, trying to hack what you're doing, or you know, trying to you know, take your baseline product and you know, kind of put a different twist on it. I'm sure there's, you know, a learning loop going back from when time that you're implementing with them to the time that it's actually up and running and they're trying to do their own unique things to your product.
Yeah, absolutely. There are many examples. One that I would definitely want to discuss about is Clarion University, and this one is actually live. So clarion.edu, if you ever get a chance, they built a directory for their scholarship. And the problem that they had before we built a solution for them was there were hundreds of scholarship on campus, but students were not able to look them up. There was no way, there was no one stop for finding the right scholarship for the right audience. So what we were able to do was create a special scholarship search for them. Now the concept is very similar as faculty, staff, or, you know, a course catalog, where you have a profile page or a description page about the scholarship, And using that information, you are able to create listing pages that could be searched or sorted based on the department, the program, or the audience. So scholarships could be different for freshman student. It could be different for a graduate student. So that school was able to take advantage of OU campus and use the same concept, but in terms of scholarship. Again, any directory that you build, the customer or the institutes are always looking for the search capabilities. It has to be searched based on departments. Any institutes or schools that you might have in your organization, all those functionalities has to be built into the directory itself.
Scholarship search, that is so smart. I can't think of many institutions that can even display on a page the scholarships that they offer well. So to be able to actually make something that's functional for the user is so smart, and it really gets you thinking about kind of breaking the way we think about what is a directory versus it's taking these chunks of content that need to be searchable and updatable, and when you start going down that path, it really changes the way you think about content and how you put it on your website, how you make it accessible to people. With that, as much as this conversation is about the directories that they're building, a lot of it is about the way people are searching. And I'm just wondering if you have any comments to kind of help us thinking in this kind of forward, future-thinking direction about, maybe it is a little bit more about how people are coming to our sites and what they're looking for content-wise. And maybe how we should be thinking about a content strategy that is driven by search more than driven by, in a lot of ways, the departments that we work in and the pages that we're trying to stand up. I told you it would be softball questions today, but this one's really got me thinking a little bit differently.
Vineet, you want to take it or you want me to?
Go ahead.
I've got ideas here.
Yeah,
the first thing that comes to mind is, as I mentioned before, is we take the content and display one format of it, but then we reformat it into something that's searchable. And the key thing here is the display information, Google will use it if it's there. But if you can optimize it so that they can actually get a key and a value kind of thing, that metadata that search engines understand real well, it's like, all right, this is a name and this is what the name is. This is the first name, this is the last name, those sorts of things. If you can architect the data and have both available there, and see, the thing is, you've got to think about this as you're building how you're maintaining the pages. So it's nice to use a CMS for this, because you type the data once, it gets displayed in one format, and then it gets reused for these other purposes, and it just gets encoded in a different way. You never even have to look at it unless you look at the source code. So it's there to help enabling that search format. We also use event-style formatting from schema.org. Actually, all of our profiles actually have schema.org architecture and tags around them as well, so that whatever search engine's out there, if it likes metadata, we give it to them. Everything about the content. And if you look at the pages that we also have our standard Facebook stuff, all the OG tags, all that kind of stuff. But the key, I think, is making it easy to create good content while still providing the architecture to help a search engine find what it's looking for. Because it does, just looking at text on a page, you can say, yeah, okay, here's a page with text on it, but it doesn't know the context of the content. And I think that's really, really important going forward in the future.
Beautifully said. That is, you not only affirmed what I thought should be the right direction, but you said it more eloquently than I could have.
Me, eloquent? No.
Vineet, as we're wrapping things up here, any thoughts about the future? Are there things on your roadmap that you expect to be tackling more with institutions as we get beyond this? I'm just trying to display my faculty problem, which most of them are. Any new challenges on the forefront or things that you're excited about?
No. Every time I talk to a new customer or a new institute, it's a new challenge. So they might have a whole different kind of system going on, different kinds of policies, and we try to build a custom solution for them in the best possible manner. I'm seeing a trend where more and more customers are going towards the hybrid models where same information is being integrated into the catalog or different parts of the website. So I think the direction is towards that, where search is the #1 priority on the website. Maybe just like Google, where when you go to google.com, all you see is a search box. So maybe one day the institute.
There is a website out there that does that.
Yeah, so maybe the institute websites are really going towards that approach, where you just go find the thing that you're looking for and get out of the website.
But where would we put the giving button? It was just a search box.
All right, two things.
Give it to us.
No, I say two things.
Oh, then we solved the problem. A search box and a giving button. All right, problem solved.
Oh, wait, no, I got it even better for you. Search box, and the search button takes you to the giving page. Then gives you your result.
Yes. Well, yeah. And then the apply button, and then the news story, and then the president's letter. Okay, we're digressing quickly.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank both of you for bringing me down this conversation. I didn't think I knew I was going to learn a lot because I don't think about directories in my day-to-day. So I knew I was going to come in here learning a lot, but it really, this conversation has changed the way I'm thinking about content strategy and building our websites and thinking about chunking content in a really smart and searchable way. So I want to thank you for your insights today, and thank you for your time. And Vineet, thank you for your expertise. Dan, best of luck in wrapping up these final days in Tennessee, and I look forward to seeing you upstate New York pretty soon. Vineet,
Okay.
You're always welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you both again, and thanks to our program supporters, M. Stoner and Omni Update. I'm Ashley Budd, and we'll be back with more Higher Ed Live next week.